questions. So I don't see, I know that Representative Fay was going to be in other committees this morning, as are some of our members. So I don't see her to speak to. Yes, Senator Moore.
I didn't, Senator Keim is of course, in committee, but I can bring her in if we need her in as well. She just said for me to let her know. So if we need her for anything on 1360, I definitely can text her real quick.
Thank you. Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think that Representative Fay is sponsored. She is not the sponsor of either.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my list, and that's the first bill, and we haven't gotten there yet.
So we would be looking for Representative Millette, and she is in providing testimony in another committee. I will reach out to her and let her know we're working the bill.
Okay, and why don't we go ahead and see if we can round up Senator Keim, because I think with her bill being the broadest of the sections referenced in the bill, that we should start with consideration of 1360. So while we do that, are there any questions? As long as we're doing that, why don't we give Molly Bogart a chance to give us some feedback on what she's heard, and invite Director Saucier in.
Good morning. I'm Molly Bogart, Director of Government Relations for DHHS, and I know there was some information requested that we sent along through Anna, and I will let Director Saucier get into the details with you and respond to any questions you have.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Director.
Thank you. Good morning, Senator and members of the committee. Yes, the waitlist information that Anna put on the screen a few moments ago is what we provided. Happy to answer any questions about that. And if I may, I'd like to clarify a couple or provide a little bit more information on a couple of points that were on Anna's list, if I may.
Sure.
One was references to the ARPA FMAP increase. I just want to be sure the committee understands that a couple of things. One, CMS has not issued their guidance on that 10% yet in terms of what it may be spent on. And secondly, it is one-time money that will last until March 30 of next year. So if you were considering funding waitlists with that money, there would be a risk that there wouldn't be the money to continue those slots after March. So that's the ARPA funding. And on the 29 cap, the last year when we discussed raising the cap to 70,000, it was 50 something, as Anna has on her sheet. I just want to point out to the committee the cap has been raised, but for a different reason. So we're up in the 72,000 range now, but that's because of rate increases that were implemented in the last year that required us to lift the cap. So the cap is at that level now, but it wouldn't do what the sponsors want, I believe. It wouldn't buy more service, essentially. It's just paying at a higher rate.
Thank you for that. And I have to keep reminding myself that a lot of these bills were submitted in November and December, and circumstances have changed a bit since then. So we need to include that in our work. I appreciated the update on the wait lists. Can you put that in perspective to me as to your sense of how we're doing in terms of overall getting to zero?
So the wait lists, let's start with the aging and physical disability programs, the state program 63 and 11. We have had wait lists in those programs since we, for the past 2 years, and they are growing. And we, absent any additional action, they will continue to grow. We do have the main care programs that are open without a wait list, but of course that doesn't help people who are not main care eligible. what I would say is that the state-funded programs, depending on people's priorities, given the fiscal climate and so on, they are important in that they allow us to get service to people more quickly and before they're main care eligible. So that's what I would say on those. On the intellectual disability side, just to repeat, the strategy I mentioned at the hearing, our strategy is to focus on keeping the Section 29 waitlist clear to make sure that all families can receive some service. And it's not insignificant. I think sometimes 29 is almost dismissed as not, because it's not comprehensive. It doesn't pay for group home. You can get shared living under 29, and you can also get community support. And so while the system is recovering from the pandemic, and we are, agencies are trying to reopen some of the group homes that they closed during the pandemic and so on, I think that's about as much as the Section 21 service delivery system is going to be able to handle for the next year. So I think even if you were inclined to fund the entire Section 21 waitlist, it just wouldn't happen in the coming year, given service delivery capacity issues. 29 is much easier to fill the positions, because there are more and more providers that are doing shared living. There isn't the same staffing pressure there because it's a family that's taking somebody in. It's not the same service, don't want to confuse the two at all, but it's much more feasible to expand shared living in this environment. In the meantime, we are working with stakeholders. We have 3 different work groups going. One on innovation is looking at all kinds of other models. And we're excited about that work. They're excited about that work. I think in another year, we'll have other service models to promote.
Very good. Thank you for that. Have any of the wait lists been cleared in the last 2 years?
None of the wait lists in the intellectual disability side have been cleared, no. We're getting very close on Section 29 with the new slots that were funded by the last legislature. You can see as of this update, we have 195 people waiting. So the governor's proposal of 720 slots would keep up with the demand over the biennium. It's about 30 a month that we are getting. Would not quite be enough to clear the 195, and but so we'd probably end up with a couple of hundred at any given time who are waiting for 5 or 6 months.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions of Director Saucier before we go to Senator Keim? If you'd like to unmute and join us from one of your other committees, that'd be great. Welcome.
Good morning.
Senator Claxton, you want to update Senator Keim just on where we are and what's going on, if you don't mind, please.
So we started with considerations of 3 other bills and yours that are focused on the wait lists. We reviewed some numbers that are static or somewhat improved for all of the wait lists, and some that have no some sections that have no wait lists. And we started with your bill as the first consideration because it seems to be the most broadly inclusive, because you specifically cited sections. So, and then Anna pointed out a couple things that need a bit of attention and compared the bills in terms of newer fiscal notes. And Director Saucier walked us through some of the work that's ongoing now and where things stand with the wait list currently as of, say, March. So you didn't hear any of Anna's thoughts, but have you had any since you last considered this bill in the midst of all the others?
I haven't. I guess I wasn't. It seems to me fairly straightforward, and an urgent need that I, would like to see addressed. But I wasn't aware of there being any issues with the proposal. So if there are, happy to consider amendments if that's what's needed.
I think I probably used the term issues incorrectly. There were a couple of things to attend to. Not any major issues, I don't think, Anna, with 1360. So a couple of things cropped up. So one of the questions that comes up is the expansion of the pay, that $2, that's focused on all of the different sections that are listed. Is that right?
Yes, I believe.
We're not
Go
doing any
ahead.
of the rate bills at the moment. These
No,
are
I'm
only
sorry. Yeah, I
wait lists.
misunderstood. That's right. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're looking. Thank you. Sorry to confuse you. So we're back at that's right, Anna. Anna's shaking your head at me. So we're looking at the wait lists and how to approach those. Some of the numbers were revised down on fiscal notes. So the question is, does the committee feel that the coverage in 1360 or the wish to shrink waiting lists in 1360 is adequate for all of the sections that are mentioned? So I'm seeing a head nod or two. So it's an include, yes, Senator Moore.
I guess my question would be then what this is doing is clearing 1360, as I understand, is clearing the wait lists for section 29 and section 21 priority 2. Is that correct?
Senator Keim, did you want to answer that? And that's the understanding from Anna, that we're focused on 21 and 29 in 1360. So the question is, one of the questions that comes up, do we want to expand that to include the other sections?
I guess that's what my question is, because I know we were also looking at 63, 11, or sections 18 and 20 as well, I believe.
Yes, those are included in the other bills.
Right.
And so is this an opportunity to roll the other bills into this one and then begin to go through each bill and pull out any other elements that we'd like to?
I think that would be a good idea, in my opinion.
Okay.
That way we have one vehicle instead of trying to have 3 vehicles and they're all doing the same thing as trying to clear the wait list. So I think that's our goal, is to clear the wait list, and let's use 1360 as our vehicle and add to that one, is what I would
Okay.
suggest.
We've also been joined by Representative Millette. Welcome.
Good morning.
And
I wasn't sure if I should be visible or just quietly sitting here in case you needed to ask me anything.
Okay, so we'll get to where we are. We're considering 1360 as a vehicle to roll up all of the wait list attempts to shrink them into one bill. So with the 1360, we're looking at 21 and 29. With 499, we're looking at 63, which is a lot like 19. And we're also looking at chapter 11. And with 962, we're looking at 18, 20, 21, and 29. So that overlaps. And also, yeah. So we're getting, so the thought on the floor is to roll in all of the sections that have had wait lists or keep wait lists into this one bill. So we would also
I believe my bill does include all the wait lists, 1490.
And it includes some elements of reporting that we would might well want to preserve. So Anna, can you help us with the difference between 1490 and 1360 in terms of coverage?
Yes, hang on. Okay, so I'm going to bring up 1490. Would you like me to go through this, Senator? What 1490 does?
Mostly in respect to the coverage of the various sections.
Well,
for right
1490
now.
is not a funding bill. At least I don't read it that way. It has some.
I'm sorry, it was the other one. My apologies. I had two bills. One was the funding and one was the
Right.
language. So it'd be 962. My apologies.
962. And thank you.
Which way to
So
work in.
what 962 includes is 18 and 20 in addition to what Senator Kimes includes, but it doesn't include 63 or Chapter 11. Do I have that right? That would be 499.
Right.
Okay.
Uh,
And so then the question should really have been asked, what's the difference between 962 and 1360? And which is the better vehicle to roll up into? And can you compare those two for us in terms of what they do?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to get the right one in the end. Okay, so 499 clears the wait lists for 63 and 11, which is, well, the state funded programs. 962 clears the wait list for 18, 20, 21, and 29. And 1360 clears the wait list for 29 to the end of the fiscal year and provides and clears slots for Section 21 Priority 2 that have no other services.
So if we're looking for a single vehicle, we could move 18 and 20 into 1360. We could also move 63 and Chapter 11 into 1360 and have one bill. How does that sound to the committee? Specifically to wait list. Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brain injuries. Is there a wait list in that section, and which of these bills is addressing it?
So I'm going to bring up Paul's data again. So sorry, I'm having trouble with picking the right things here. Share screen. So the wait list for 18, which is brain injury, you can see there are 214 on the program and 125 waiting.
Yep.
And then 20, which is the other related conditions, is 38 and 21. Right now, 18, 20, 21, and 29 are in 962.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from my perspective, you can use any bill to do anything. That what bill you decide to use is your choice. But from my perspective, it doesn't matter to me. I just need clear direction of what you want in a bill, and so that's entirely up to you. The only thing you need to decide from my perspective is exactly what you're doing with 21 and 29, because there are some differences in the two bills there. But once again, that's up to you how you want to do it, who you want to include, which wait lists, which bills. That's a political decision that has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm. So can we look at 21 and 29 on that chart again and make sure we understand the difference in terms of how they're handled in the two bills, 962 and 1360. So it's the right-hand column. And so the first question is, do we want to include monies for Section 29 through the end of fiscal year 21? And the second question is, are we focused on priority 2 without any services, as opposed to the whole list? those are the two differences in coverage of 21 and 29 that I see. Have I summarized that accurately, Anna?
Right.
Okay. So we come back to the committee in terms of coverage through the end of the fiscal year. And come back to the committee for consideration of a more narrow focus on 21. For those who are priority 2. So it's complicated. So I'll ask Director Saucier for your input on the distinction between the two bills, with the understanding that I think the committee is leaning towards rolling these up into a single bill and addressing wait lists as a single effort.
So my understanding is that 1360 is a incremental approach that prioritizes certain people right now, namely the folks who are in the 29 wait list. So that would be at the moment about 200 people, 195 through the end of the fiscal year. And then if the governor's proposal is accepted, the 720 new slots would pick up July 1. And then in addition to that, on section 21, it would focus on the 105 people who are on that wait list who don't have any other services at the moment. So it's, if you were to include everything in 962, which is to clear all the wait lists, it would be inclusive of what 1360 does. If you were going for the incremental approach, the language in 1360 is all you need. If you're going for the comprehensive, the language in 962 is all you need.
Thank you for those clarifying comments. And as a policy committee, we're not really focused on funding, although I understand that to be a challenge. Any comments in response to Director Saucier's comments? Saucier. Any comments from the sponsors? Yes, Senator Moore, let me go there first.
I guess I'm just have a question on 962, and maybe Representative Villette can tell me. When we're looking at clearing the wait list for the section 21, are we talking about the 1,905 for the total number waiting, or just the priority 2? Not seeing where it's referencing priority 2 as it does in 1360.
That's correct. I do not focus just on the priorities. It's to clear all of the wait lists.
All of the wait list. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the total
And-
1905. Okay.
Yeah, and I really do hope that that the committee makes sure that to include the brain injuries, because I think that may have been dropped off unintentionally last session. And I've heard from a number of folks who really believe that's important to make sure it's included this round. Thank you.
That's section 18. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And I think you may have misspoken, Senator Moore, and I don't want it to go unrecognized, but I think the wait list for 21 right now is 195. I think you may have added a 0.
Well, I'm looking at the spreadsheet. I printed a copy of it. Number waiting on section 21.
Oh,
Section
I-
29 was 195.
Yes.
Section
Yeah.
21 is what I was referring to, where in 1360, we're looking at section 21 priority 2, which was the 105. But in
Yes.
962, it would be the total number waiting, which was the 1905.
1905. Right. Yes.
That's where I got that number.
Okay. All right. Any thoughts from the committee about with this information? All right. So I'm hearing a strong commitment to include 18, 20, 21, and 29. That's covered in a couple of bills. Also, an interest in making sure that 63 and Chapter 11 are covered. And I don't want to put words in people's mouths. If that's not right, I need to hear about it. And then the question becomes, which of the vehicles do you want to use? And as Anna said, it doesn't really matter as long as we're being adequately inclusive. Okay. Then, yes, Representative Lemelin.
I suggest that we do what you first suggested, and that is move them all into 1360.
Okay. When is I'm sorry, I've forgotten the start date on 962. Is that July of 22? Do we need to add, do we need to change or address that? Because one is more current than the other. 1360 makes the priority work now, start now.
You might want to make that decision, actually.
That's what I'm trying to get to. So what does 1360 stipulates fiscal year 21? So that's more immediate. And when's the start date for the changes in 962?
I don't know that I know the answer to that.
Okay.
We don't have a fiscal note for one of them, so I don't know what Luke's assumptions are. I'm trying to find the fiscal notes that I do have, because that will actually give us a clue, but I don't know that I can find them very quickly.
There is a fiscal note with 962, a preliminary.
Yeah.
And there is with,
and there is for 499 as well.
And 1360 as well, I think. Yeah. Yeah, they're all there.
I don't have the details on the fiscal notes as to what the assumptions are.
No, and they're not emergencies either.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's a lot easier to sort of understand the second year, because you're talking about the whole year. Exactly what Luke's assumptions are. I don't, for the first year, I don't entirely know the answer to that question. I don't know whether he's assuming October or January. It's possible the department have a better handle on that anyway, but they don't have emergencies on them right now, or at least the ones I'm looking at don't. I can't swear they
Given
don't.
yes, Representative Millette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, just want to raise the variable of the FMAP, possible FMAP changes in assistance from the feds that could help reduce the state contribution as well.
And that would be, as we've learned, without any clear guidance, but ending in March of 22. That's the only guidance we've gotten so far, right, Director Saucier, that it really ends as of March 22.
That's right. The enhanced FMAP began on April 1 and it runs until March 30th of next year.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
I don't know. Millette still has her hand up.
Okay. Do you have your, nope, hands down. Okay.
Okay.
Senator Moore, I'm going to mute you. There we go. So let's go to the department, ask about assuming this bill and its rolled up inclusion of all of the sections was to be voted by the legislature and signed by the governor. Big assumptions, I understand. What would be a time frame for beginning to use whatever monies come with it to address these issues? What should we put as a start date?
I think that the clearing the wait list immediately for FY21 under 1360, I believe that is emergency legislation. So if it took effect immediately, we could start to do that right away, since it's a relatively smaller number of people. If otherwise, and you told me, you said the assumption is fund all of the wait lists.
Yes.
I think the best way to think about that is to look at Luke's assumptions, which we worked with him on, which is that it would be a gradual ramp up. And so whenever the bill takes effect, we could start adding 30 to 50 people a month, and which is why the fiscal gets larger over time, because, each month you add more people.
Right. And there's also the limitation that if we fully funded as of a certain date, we don't have people to staff the positions that are necessary to provide the services. And that's going to take a while to ramp up.
That's true, right? We definitely need more staffing on our end. And then, of course, the agencies themselves are going to have to staff up.
And that was a question I was going to ask. If this whole thing happens, then you're going to need more staff to bring it to fruition. And but the wait list for 21, is that something you have a current capacity to address?
We have capacity to do add 30 to 50 people a month,
Okay.
Which is what we've been doing. But if you fund all of the wait lists completely, the volume's going to be much greater than that.
Mm-hmm. And again, that was predicated on two big assumptions. So any other thoughts?
Not for me. I mean, I would just say again that even if we had the staff, et cetera, the service delivery capacity is not really there to absorb it.
And we've been trying to be sensitive to that, and also recognize that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And if we can get you the resources you need, because I think that's something that needs to be said too, is that the work that's ongoing right now has been impressive. And this is an attempt to get you more resources to continue that work and recognize what you've accomplished or is being accomplished currently in the department. So this is an effort to get you more resources, which you'd probably be okay with. No comment. All right.
Well, I mean, not to be argumentative at all about that. I think there is a risk that if you fund the entire 21 wait list, then we get less cooperation from the service providers to innovate and add other types of service, because they will be able to continue with their current business model, which is the group home. So for what it's worth, that's the risk, I think, of funding the entire 21 wait list.
Okay. And that's specific to 21. You wouldn't mind getting the resources to clear the other wait lists where you're not as actively involved in innovation.
Right. We would love to be able to clear 29, which, the governor's proposal comes very close to doing that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Representative Zager?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You just lost your video.
Maybe I should not just randomly hit buttons on my, my Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Saucier, I am wondering if you could give us guidance on, in terms of timing, the rollout. It's been brought up that there's the issue of rates, so that the providers, as you just mentioned, can have the staff to carry out the thing that we'd be asking your folks to do. What do you think is the proper sequencing as we are considering lots of bills about those two categories, the wait list and the rates? How best to approach that?
So you have already approved in the base budget that was passed about a $30 million increase for the rates for these providers, which is significant, and that should help them. I'm sure they would argue it's not enough, and you have other rate bills before you, but we believe that is a great increase to stabilize the sector, and that begins on July 1.
Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, I'd say in terms of the timing, it takes a while to get the new slots out the door, and then it takes the families a while to find a provider. So for all intents and purposes, I mean, if this passed out as an emergency today, we're probably not filling many slots before July anyway, if that helps you in your timing question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Yes, Senator Keim.
Thank you for allowing me to participate. I just had one question, and that is, I recognize that policy committees aren't always talking about the finances behind a bill, but I think it is something of a consideration when we're talking about possibly wanting to pass out something as an emergency to get help immediately to some of the wait lists, if that's what the committee decides they want to do. So I just wanted to throw that in there as an idea that that possibly we would want 2 bills and we pass one as an emergency and we let another go through regular channels. If there's a question around needing emergency or wanting there to be emergency funding available right away.
Good point. Appreciate that. And so you're saying that maybe we should consider 1360 specifically to section 29 and 21 as emergency and move those. Hopefully we can get that through and then leave the consideration the others tied into 962 with inclusion of all the sections for future. That's what I heard.
Yeah, it was a suggestion, yes.
Yeah. Yep. No, I just wanted to make sure I heard what you were intending. Okay. Any thoughts about that? This is a complicated process. We have 4 bills in play. Senator Moore?
I think that's an excellent suggestion of Senator Keim's, because I think we all agree the importance of getting section 21 priority 2 waitlist cleared as soon as possible. And if we use 1360, which is the emergency, that would get us on that road along with the 29, clearing the 29. And then I think that's a great suggestion to say, okay, we'll put everybody else on the 962 and go through the normal process. If Representative Millett is agreeable.
Representative Millett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to say I'm concerned by saying that one waiting list is more of a priority than another, frankly. I know the folks that have been sitting on the brain injury wait list view themselves as equally desperate as some of the others. So I have concerns about that approach. It feels like picking winners and losers.
Well, that's why some of the initial thought was to roll them all into one and not pick winners and losers, because we have a long tradition of doing that poorly. Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would echo Representative Millett. Our intent was to steer clear of picking winners and losers and to look at the wait lists as a whole.
So do we go for an emergency preamble on all of them? And recognize that for many people, it is an emergency. Representative Perry.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend an emergency preamble. I think that when we get this through, we're going to have to do a lot of lobbying the AFA to help them understand how serious this is on all levels. So if we can get the bill through without an emergency, I know that the department will begin to work on it as soon as they can, knowing this is a hefty job. So I really don't support an emergency preamble.
So let me understand that concern a little bit better. What do we lose by voting at all emergency and requiring 2/3 from the legislature?
We still have to get it through appropriations.
And are we less likely to get that through with the emergency clause added?
I don't know. I guess I'm not willing to take that chance.
Yeah. And I guess my sense is that that really isn't a major issue for the folks at AFA. They're going to do what they're going to do based on what they think we can do. Representative Javner.
Thank you, Senator Claxton. I would definitely concur with your thought pattern there as well. I think that if we move forward with all emergency preambles, we choose to do 2 bills or 1, I think that, well, I'm hoping at least AFA would look at that and see the heightened concern that, you know, we hold as a committee. Those are my thoughts. And I do agree too that we don't want to be looked upon as picking losers and winners. That is in no way would be the assumption that we would be moving forward if we do choose to do 2 bills. I think that we all agree that this is important to each and every one of us. And we're even just this work session has shown how much we're willing to work and dig deep and do what's best.
Thank you for that. Representative Craven.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree as well, because it's providers are going to have to feel confident enough to go out and do their hiring and prepare to take on extra clients. And I think that an emergency preamble would give them that confidence to make sure that they can offer a living wage to the people that they're going to hire. Thanks.
So the emergency clause is currently attached to 1360. Is there a reason to not bring all of the wait list bills under 1360 and its emergency clause? The other opportunity is to begin to pick losers and winners and pull in section 18 into 1360 and not elsewhere. And I personally am quite uncomfortable with that. Which is why we started the conversation around 1360, in part because of its emergency clause. So I'm looking for some feedback about the possibility of pulling 18, 20, 63, and Chapter 11 into 1360 and retaining its emergency clause. I'm seeing some head nodding. I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. Okay. So as based on the head nod count, we would roll all of those sections into one bill with an emergency clause. Then we'd have to go back and we'll consider each bill and see if there's elements of each of the other bills that we'd like to have stand alone, having the rate pulled out, or if we having the waitlist piece pulled out, or whether we would vote to retire those bills as having served their purpose. Okay, so I would entertain a motion then to move all of the wait lists into LD 1360, retain its emergency provision. Senator Moore.
I would make that motion, Senator Claxton.
Okay, so
Second.
in addition to 21 and 29 that are included, we would be adding 18 and 20, addressing Representative Millett's concern about brain injury and the urgency there. And we'd be pulling in 63 in Chapter 11. And that would pretty much cover the waterfront.
Can I just ask a question?
Please.
Are you moving all of 21 and 29 waitlists into this bill as well? It's not as it's currently drafted, correct?
Yes, that would be the intent. Representative
Okay.
Meyer?
21 priority 2, 29, 18, 20. I'm just looking for the list again, but
Mhm.
21 priority 2.
That's already in 1360. That one's already in. The issue is, are we trying to include all of 21? And the answer, I think, is yes, from what I'm
Yes.
hearing from the committee. And 29 is included in both. So does that answer your question, Anna?
I think so. You're saying that you're clearing all the wait lists for all 6
Yes.
sections. Great.
Yes.
Thank-
All wait
and with
lists,
the
all
emergency
sections.
preamble.
And with the emergency preamble. All right, so there's a motion on the floor to approve LD 1360. Now, I want to clarify with process with Anna. As we go through the other remaining 3 bills, we can pull out elements of them and add them to 1360. If we've already voted on it, ought to pass.
I'm sorry, now I have totally lost the plot. I thought you were moving all of these sections into 1360. I'm setting aside the other Representative Millett bill because we haven't talked about it yet, but
Right.
you wouldn't be needing 499 or 962 at all.
Right, okay.
Right,
And
okay.
we would leave, yeah. But we could either then consider 490 as a standalone, or if there's an element of 490 we want to bring into our current bill, we could do that. Then you lose some of the language, you risk losing some of the language, which is part of 1490. So we'll just go ahead and straight vote the wait list, and we'll ask Representative Ms. Withy to run. Yes, Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking at the attendees list and just wondering, among the advocates, have we missed any wait list in our proposal here? And if we have, to raise your hand. In our ongoing effort to leave no one behind.
And not pick winners and losers.
Okay.
I'm not seeing
Seeing no
any
hands up.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is ought to pass as amended. The amendments being to pull in all of 21, 18 and 20, all of section 63 and chapter 11 into one bill. It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Withy, would you collect the vote?
Representative Zager,
Yes.
Representative Zager, yes. Representative Lumlin,
Yes.
Representative Lumlin, yes. Representative Stover,
Yes.
Representative Stover, yes. Senator Baldacci. Senator Baldacci is absent. Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Perry, yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Griffin, yes. Representative Connor,
Yes.
Representative Connor, yes. Representative Craven,
Yes.
Representative Craven, yes. Representative Madigan. Representative Madigan is absent. Representative Javner,
Yes.
Representative Javner, yes. Senator Moore,
Yes.
Senator Moore, yes. Representative Meyer,
Yes.
Representative Meyer, yes. Senator Claxton,
Yes.
Senator Claxton, yes. That's 11 yes, 2 absent.
Thank you. Okay. That leaves 3 other bills that we reviewed as part of this process. Representative Craven, it looks to me that LD 499 has been rolled into 1360. Are you comfortable that there are no other elements that you would like us to consider in 499?
No, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Okay. So then I would entertain a motion ought not to pass on 499?
So moved.
Second,
Representative Keim, I saw your hand wave. Did you want to be
I was
recognized?
just going to go back to Judiciary Committee. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for bringing this forward in a vehicle. I heard a move to ought not to pass on 499. I'm sorry, I didn't hear a second.
I'll
second,
second that.
Second.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion of that? And Ms. Withy, would you collect the vote on ought not to pass on LD 499?
Representative Zager,
Yes.
Representative Zager, yes. Representative Lemlin,
Yes.
Representative Lemlin, yes. Representative Stover,
Ye-
Representative Stover, yes. Senator Baldacci, Senator Baldacci is absent. Representative Perry,
yes.
Representative Perry, yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Griffin, yes. Representative Connor,
Yes.
Representative Connor, yes. Representative Craven,
Yes.
Representative Craven, yes. Representative Madigan, Representative Madigan is absent. Representative Javner,
Yes.
Representative Javner, yes. Senator Moore,
Yes.
Senator Moore, yes. Representative Meyer,
Yes.
Representative Meyer, yes. Senator Claxton,
Yes.
Senator Claxton, yes. That's 11 yes, 2 absent.
So I'll ask the same question of Representative Millette. Are you satisfied that the elements that you brought forward in 962 have been adequately rolled into 1360?
Yes,
And
thank you
with
very
the
much.
addition of the emergency clause, yes.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. So then I'd entertain a motion ought not to pass on LD 962.
I move ought not to pass on 962.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Withy, could you record that vote?
Representative Zager,
Yes.
Representative Zager, yes. Representative Lemlin,
Yes.
Representative Lemlin, yes. Representative Stover,
Yes.
Representative Stover, yes. Senator Baldacci, Senator Baldacci is absent. Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Perry, yes. Representative Griffin,
Sorry. Yes. Yes.
Representative Griffin, yes. Representative Connor,
Yes.
Representative Connor, yes. Representative Craven,
Yes.
Representative Craven, yes. Representative Madigan, Representative Madigan is absent. Representative Javner,
Yes.
Representative Javner, yes. Senator Moore,
Yes.
Senator Moore, yes. Representative Meyer,
She just lost power.
Representative Meyer is absent. Senator Claxton,
Yes.
Senator Claxton, yes. That's 10 yes, 3 absent.
Representative Meyer sends her regards, but she just had her power go out. So she'll be back with us when she can. Talking about technical challenges. We told you we'd get to them. So that brings, thank you for that. That brings us to our consideration of LD 1490. And there are multiple parts to this to walk through. So if I look at, Anna, did you do a more detailed analysis of 1492, or should we just walk through the summary steps and make sure we keep the parts we really care about? You're
So
making
yes,
it.
I did. Hang on a minute. Let me just bring it up. So this is a little bit different. And if you don't mind, I would like to go through what the bill actually does.
Please.
since it is not, I mean, it's related, but it is not a funding bill in the same way. So it renames the system of care to the system of services and supports. And I should have said this is all in 34B, the system of care section for adults with intellectual disabilities, autism, brain injury, and other related conditions, and the requirements of the 2-year plan that is currently submitted by the department. So it renames the system of care. It amends the principles guiding delivery of services by providers of services and the department in the rights of recipients, section 5610, to add the principle that inadequate reimbursement rates, extended stays on waiting lists, and service definitions that do not meet the needs of persons who have significant need for significant levels of support are incompatible with the other goals guiding delivery of services. I'm gonna actually just skip down to the bottom for a minute here and come back up. So this section is here. So this is in the rights of recipients, and you can see that most of this is, if you can see that, I realize it's quite small, is sort of positively structured in terms of having the same rights of all citizens, community inclusion, real pay for real work. But this section is differently constructed, so it sits slightly awkwardly in there because it's about sort of what is not what's incompatible. So it's kind of awkward, and that's section 14 of the bill if you're looking at the actual bill. It requires the department to post at least monthly on the department's website for each home and community-based services waiver in which the state participates, data on how many persons were on the waiting list for services on the first day of the month, including prioritized waiting lists, and how many people are in each prioritization category. It requires the department to post at least quarterly on the department's website for each waiver, data on the median time from application for waiver services to approval by the department for receipt of the same waiver services. It requires the commissioner's plan to include quality metrics and data collection developed with input from across stakeholder groups. It requires that the commissioner's plan includes participation of persons with intellectual disabilities, autism, brain injury, and other related conditions, also direct care workers and persons from immigrant and Indigenous populations. And it requires the plan to describe how the commissioner achieved the required inclusion and describe the feedback received from participants in each required group. It requires that plan to project whether there will be waiting lists for waivers over the next 4 years and how many people are prioritized to be on those waiting lists, how many are projected to be in each prioritization category, and how many people would be in a different prioritization category if they were not currently living with a parent. It requires the plan to project the budgetary impact of eliminating all waiting lists for services over the next 4 years, including any anticipated savings from release of resources of a less expensive service, in other words, nursing facility to home-based service. It allows the plan to consider how the services may be redesigned to promote self-determination by persons with intellectual disabilities or autism and promote less restrictive placements, and to promote competitive integrated employment by persons with intellectual disabilities or autism. It authorizes the committee to report out a bill each session. You currently do it when you currently have the authority when you get a plan, and it's a 2-year plan. It requires the department to submit a waiver renewal or amendment that separates community support into tiered services as described in a draft waiver renewal. That's section 15, and that's the section that both the department and the advocates have said have already happened, so you might not need that. And then section 16 is the behavioural add-on section, and I just want to remind you that you do have another bill not being worked today that deals with that behavioural add-on. So you heard from the proponents that the bill is adding to the reporting requirements that are already required in statute. There is a biennial plan that's already required, and this would include waiver recipients and stakeholder groups reflecting what the department is already doing, and updating the language to be more respectful. There was a request from the DD Council to, in addition to the median wait list, to also have the shortest and the longest wait time. So that's section 6. And then you also heard the request for inclusion of brain injury and other related conditions into all of the instances in statute in that section that currently refer to ID and autism. And then, as I mentioned already, section 15 has already been done by the department, and section 16, you can still talk about this now if you'd like to, but I do just want to remind you that you do have another bill that relates to the behavioural add-on, and there are some folks that are in support of that and some others that are opposed to it. And then you heard from the department that the department is already publishing waitlist data quarterly and will continue to do so. They also develop performance measures to meet federally required assurances and reports that those measures in publicly available reports to CMS. And it creates some new reporting burdens for providers without improving the system. And then the section 15 issue, and then the section 16, the behavioural add-on. The September report recommended a value-based payment approach, which is not what is currently written in the bill. So this is just the current law, just so you can see what you're adding it into, because it's kind of complicated. I find it difficult to read, you know, what's being added. So you can see there that, you know, you go up to letter G, and this would add in H through, well, I'm sorry, I can't read it together, but this is exactly why. So you can see, I'm sorry, let me go back up again. My picture gets in the way of what I'm trying to see. So the responsibilities of the department, it makes some changes into the responsibilities of the department sections, and then it makes some changes to the plan. It was not the most articulate that I've ever been, but it's got a lot of pieces to it.
We got a thumbs up from the sponsor, so we'll take that as a sign that it's been captured the way it was drafted. So my thought is that we probably need to go through each of these items one by one, unless, or we can have people raise issues as randomly. Starting with section 1. How do people feel about the language change from system of care to system of services and support in the committee? Is that something that the department can live with? That's a question of Director Saucier.
Yes, no objection to section 1.
Okay. So we should quit there and go home.
Yeah, maybe the only time you hear me say that today.
I understand, sir. I understand. Representative Javner.
Thank you very much, Senator Claxton. And on that note, I would like to hear from Director Saucier. After the analysis, has the opinion of the department changed at all from your testimony during the public hearing?
It has not. This is, you know, to reiterate some of the points we made then, it's not necessary. We're working with stakeholders on all of these issues. Many of the things in here have already been done or are underway. We're committed to continuing our transparency around wait lists. And it's all just going to add to our reporting burden. And, you know, rather than continuing to move forward with our reform work, we're going to have to just spend a lot more time putting things together for this report.
So your concerns are mostly about the reporting stipulations?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's workload, but it's also that it's so specific, much of it. I think my own opinion, inappropriate for a kind of a guiding statute. A lot of the pieces that are being added don't really fit well. I don't see that there's anything to be gained here, and it's going to just be a lot more administrative work.
Okay, Representative Millette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to respond to that. I just first want to make very clear that I do appreciate all that Mr. Saucier and his team and the department are doing. I know it's a really heavy lift, and I want to just take a step back and make sure that this is not viewed as some sort of condemnation of what's currently underway. This is a recognition that statute is something that guides future administrations. I wish I could say that I have confidence that this would remain in place going forward, but I think we all recognize that things can change and do change. And so I do want to make sure that reporting does not become onerous, but I would say that I don't see, with maybe the exception of the monthly requirement, the other things about making sure that there's a way that quality metrics is discussed, because it's not just about placements, but it's also about the quality of services. I think any good operation is going to want to have some sort of discussion on that. This bill does not say specifically what those must be. That would be up to the professionals in the department to decide, along with the interested parties, as to what form that takes. And then it does. I do understand that the stakeholders are being involved, but we do not have specificity in statute about who those folks are. And I know we're doing a lot of work in many other committees around making sure we are inclusive and who we inclusive in the discussions around public policy. We're certainly doing that in the Education Committee. So making sure that we spell out that persons with intellectual disabilities, autism, brain injury, and whatever are included. I don't see how that harms anything, and if anything, acts as a guardrail going forward. So I do hope that we can keep an open mind as we go through these sections, and just keep in mind the framework